Have you ever looked at a job posting and thought, that's me, only to find out the person who got hired wasn't the most qualified? Yeah, it happens all the time. And it's because getting hired isn't really about being the smartest person in the room. It's about understanding the game. And that game, it's all about human psychology. So let's dive into how you can use that to your advantage.
So where does this idea come from? Well, this quote is from an ex-recruiter who has literally interviewed thousands of people. And their big takeaway is this: most of us think hiring is this logical, checklist-driven process, but it's not. It's emotional, it's gut-driven. It's all about how you make someone feel.
And this chart, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? We spend all our time polishing that 20%, our skills, our experience, but the real decision, a whopping 80% of it, comes down to psychology. The moment you really get this 80-20 role, everything changes. You realize it's not about being the best on paper. It's about being the one they connect with. So where does this whole psychological game even begin? Well, it's not when you walk into the interview room. Nope. It starts way, way before you even shake their hand. It's all about building this perception of authority before they ever lay eyes on you.
Okay, so the first big idea you need to get is something called authority bias. We're just wired to listen to people we see as experts. Think about it. If your doctor tells you to take a certain medicine, you just do it. You trust their authority. Well, you can actually create that same dynamic in your job search.
So, how do you do it? How do you become an authority before the interview? Your online presence does all the heavy lifting. Creating useful content, building a really solid personal brand on a place like LinkedIn. When you do that, you're not just another resume in the pile. You're an expert they're excited to talk to. And trust me, the difference is night and day. Just look at this. The source talked about clients with the exact same skill set. Before they built an online brand, they got hit with all the basic rookie screening questions. But afterwards, recruiters just assumed they were experts. They were treated like VIPs and got fast-tracked through the whole process. It totally changes the game. All right, let's move on. You've built up your authority online, you got the interview, now you're in the room, or, on the Zoom call. The first 3 minutes are everything. This is where the interview is so often won or lost, all based on these tiny unconscious judgments. And this is all about a cool little concept called cognitive ease. Basically, our brains are lazy. They want to conserve energy, so they're naturally drawn to things that are simple and easy to process. For a hiring manager, that means they're drawn to candidates who are easy to understand and just easy to deal with. And look, this is one of the most underrated tactics out there. Seriously, if your resume is clear, if your answers are simple and to the point, if you're just easy to talk to, you're creating cognitive ease. If you're confusing or you ramble, their brain just kind of checks out, and then it's game over. Now, when you nail that first impression, when you're clear and confident, you trigger something really powerful. It's called the halo effect. This is this weird mental shortcut where if we see one positive thing about someone, say their confidence, our brain just assumes everything else about them is positive too. And here's exactly how that works in an interview. If you come across as confident and clear, they don't just think, oh, they're a good speaker. No, they unconsciously assume you're competent, organized, and probably great to work with. But if you're vague and unstructured, they'll assume your work is just as messy. The halo effect can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And this leads to the last piece of this puzzle, confirmation bias. Once that first impression is formed, good or bad, the interviewer's brain starts actively searching for evidence to prove it right. That's why that strong start is so critical. You literally want their brain working for you for the rest of the interview. Okay, so you've aced the first impression. Now we get to the heart of the interview, the actual conversation. And this is where a simple human element can be way more important than any technical skill you have. I mean, this quote just says it all, right? Think about it from their perspective. Who would you rather spend 8 hours a day with? Someone who's a genius but impossible to talk to? Or someone who's really good at their job and also just a good person to be around? At the end of the day, humans hire humans they actually want to work with. So the big question is, how do you do that? How do you carry that authority you built online into the actual room and combine it with that crucial likability? How do you project that confident, expert vibe without coming off as arrogant? Well, it's actually a pretty simple 3-step recipe. First, clarity. Just answer the question directly. No rambling. Second, structure. Use a simple framework like STAR, situation, task, action, result, to keep your stories punchy and easy to follow. And third,
And this is a big one, ownership. Talk about what you did, not what we did or the team did. True experts own their results.
All right, we're at the end game, the final critical stage. You've had a great conversation, but how do you finish strong? How do you walk out of there with clarity and control instead of just sitting by your phone for a week hoping?
This right here is so important. Just hoping you get a call back, that is not a strategy. It's a recipe for anxiety and second guessing. You need to be proactive. You need a way to end the conversation on your terms.
And that strategy is built on another powerful psychological idea, the commitment principle. It's simple. Once a person says out loud that they'll do something, their brain feels this intense pressure to follow through. And yes, you can use this to turn a maybe into a definite yes. And here it is, the exact script to make it happen. This is what we call the commitment lock. It's so powerful because it's polite, it's professional, but it's also incredibly direct. You're not being pushy, you're just getting clarity and getting them to verbally commit to a plan. So let's break it down. It's just 3 easy steps. First, you ask for the next steps. Simple. Second, you get a specific time frame, not just next week, but by Friday. And third, you get their permission to follow up. Boom. Just like that, you've eliminated all the guesswork and put yourself back in the driver's seat. So, let's just pull this all together for a second. These aren't just a bunch of random interview tips. This is a complete psychological playbook that can give you a massive advantage every single time you're looking for a new role. So here they are, the 6 big principles we talked about. We started with authority bias, building your expert status before you even talk to them. Then we used cognitive ease and the halo effect to make an unforgettable first impression. We touched on the power of simple likability and how confirmation bias makes that first impression stick. And finally, we used the commitment principle to lock in the offer. So the next time you're prepping for an interview, I want you to remember this. It is not just a test of your skills. It's a psychological test. And the real question is, are you prepared to pass?